There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
Attack! Anti-throw!
Hello, Forrest.
What's up, fellas?
It's good to see you.
And see, I didn't know we were gonna do video. See, I'm looking scruffy as hell.
Oh,
man.
fuck you. Come on.
No, but look at you. I mean, you look trimmed up and look, but I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think you look good. You look
But hey,
distinguished.
man, I mean, to be quite honest with you, it's good seeing you guys, to be quite honest with you. It makes me feel good. So I appreciate that.
He's got like the North Star above his head.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, you look really divine.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Are you in a manger?
Not in this lifetime. If they didn't have any room for Jesus, they definitely not gonna have any room for my ass. I tell you that. Oh man.
Whites only manger.
Oh
Fucking
man.
goddamn European Jesus.
I know, right? So have we talked about how my man is doing in his new digs, his new life, and the whole nine? How you doing there?
A little bit. I'm doing good. Yeah.
Good, man.
Yeah, I mean, we're still kind of unpacking, and
Yeah.
Kate's working a lot. I feel like I'm the house husband. Basically. You know, I clean and everything. No, it's been good though. It's it's just very different climate-wise. It's just like, I don't know, I'm just adapting to. It's the Pacific Northwest, you know. It's raining every other day, and no, it's beautiful though. I like it here. Yeah.
Water's good, man.
Good.
Yeah. No, it's going well. I'm kind of. I was filling out a job application today. I was talking to Mike how much I fucking hate job, like just all the things you're trying to sell yourself.
Oh.
What are you gonna bring to this job? What are you gonna bring to the? And I'm like,
And it's all bullshit, right?
Yeah, I know.
All bullshit.
It's just pretend.
I know.
Oh man.
Everything
Yeah.
is dumb.
I have to put on airs, and it's, I don't know, it's interesting because like with my employment history, I haven't had a real job in like, what's it been? It's been like 2 years. So it's like I've been just self-employed.
Yeah.
If you want to call it
Congratulations,
that.
though. That's impressive.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's not enough to pay rent, but it's it's pretty good.
So what you're saying is Kate is not your sugar mama.
She really wanted to be. She really was looking for it, but she just is unable to pull it off right now.
Well, that's what right now, she got to strive for that. She got to just work a little harder,
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
maybe you could be the pool boy and walk around in a Speedo or something and jump on a trampoline.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I'm open to it. Figure something out.
Exactly.
She's just flicking dollar bills at you.
That's it.
Making it rain!
Make it rain! Making it rain!
We're into that. Yeah.
Make it rain,
Next up, we
baby.
have Patrick.
I know.
Yeah, I know. Oh my God. No. But yeah, it's kind of cool because, like I was telling Mike, Kate and I have been seeing each other long distance for not quite a year. So, we've seen each other a few times and now we're just like living together. So it like went from talking on the phone or FaceTiming or Zooming like this. And then now we're like living in this apartment together and it's going great. Like there's no issue. It's just transition. It's just, and it's interesting that relationships exist like this now, like on being online is so normal for everybody now. Like it does not even, you don't even think about how strange it is that you can have this intimate relationship with somebody that lives, I mean, she was living in Canada, right? So like for like most of a year we were just talking and that's how we got to know each other. And she met me through this podcast, you know what I mean? So just not this podcast, but on, Last Born. So like just that way that relationship played out is just kind of it's fascinating that
Well,
this is how it goes.
You're the first friend I've ever had whose girlfriend from Canada was actually real.
Oh, good.
I always heard that. Yeah, I got a girlfriend. She lives in Canada, though. We're like, yeah.
Canada, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
such an
Okay,
easy.
now, yeah.
It's an easy
Right.
out to like get it. Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, it's been going well, and
Good, man. I'm glad to hear that.
yeah,
That's one of the few. That's one of the few. Well, you and Mike, you guys are the only ones that actually have some happy tales when it comes to something like that. As you know, I'm divorced. I'm never getting married again. That's I was one time hitter quitter. That's it. My uncle keeps saying like I might find. I'm like, no, man. It's not going to happen for me, man. I'm too set in my ways now. I realize that. Plus, also, I'm gonna tell you something, man. With the whole coronavirus thing, and I see how my relationships have dropped off with certain people as they've gone more towards a rightward slant.
mhm.
I don't know if I can ever instill that much trust in anybody again, to be quite honest with you.
Well, you don't have to get married to him.
Well, oh no, I will shack up.
Yeah.
Shack up. Yeah, no, without a doubt. Yeah, no, but the whole marriage thing is too much of a hassle. Got to go through a divorce, lawyer sometime. I'm not going through that again. Sorry.
Yeah. I think I got lucky though.
I know all the women.
because
I know all the women in Los Angeles. Excuse me, in the world are going to be sad about that. But yeah, in the world they're going to be sad about that. But no, I'm never getting married again. Yeah.
I think
wah, wah,
yeah.
wah. Oh.
Well, yeah, Mike got lucky.
I think I got lucky mainly because if I would have married any the two serious long-term relationships I had prior to my wife, there's no way they would have lasted. And both those women dumped me, and I probably would have ended up marrying them. If it would have gone long enough, but I don't know. Thank God, whatever.
I hear that.
I mean, I was married for less than a year once, and I'm glad that ended. That wasn't meant to be, for obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I don't know. I guess I would consider getting married again, but it's now that I've gone through the getting married and then divorce. It was within a short period, and luckily it was pretty minimal drama. There was no lawyers involved. It was like because it was such a short marriage, we didn't own anything together. It was just like super simple. We kept it really simple.
Yeah.
But going through that whole thing, you realize when you do get to the divorce part that marriage, at least in the way that it's like a contract that you sign with the state, that it's just about property. Like that's all it comes down to.
Yeah.
Like you can have all the beautiful love and the partnership of the marriage or whatever it is, the partnership. You can have all of that without any of the signing a marriage contract or getting a whatever. You can do all of it without that, for the most part.
Yeah.
There are some benefits, I guess, to getting married, but it's really
I don't think
not
we would
necessary.
if we met today, we would not get married. I mean, we just know too much. I mean, plus she'd be like, "Oh God, I don't even have to carry your ass that way." I'm like, "Oh, yeah. That's a good point."
Yeah.
But I was thinking though, like I don't just blame my ex-wife for all this stuff. It was just incompatible personalities at the end of the day. But I think about the fact that I'm close with nobody I went to high school with. Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Like none of them. I mean, some of them are my Facebook friends and online or whatever. But whenever I go and look at things that they post or they say, or even when we have like a momentary interaction or discourse, it's not where, oh man, I can't wait to talk with this person, or this person has grown in a certain way. Most of them are just the same. In fact, let's be honest, or let me be honest. They're all the same as they were in high school, man. I'm serious. It's like no growth whatsoever. They just old now, right? We're all like pushing 50, or some of them are over 50, but it's like no growth whatsoever. If I was talking to their kids, the only difference would be like they might have a little bit more knowledge about certain things, like let's say if it's football. Well, they never saw Barry Sanders run, their kids, or anything like that. I have, so we have more of a long history as far as that's concerned, or the most trivial of things. But as far as any depth of personality, not one change since high school. I can't think of one. Not one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have one.
Yeah, one. There you go. You're lucky man.
And he's the. I actually was talking before we went on with Patrick about having him and a couple other guys on that kind of similar paths of escaping wage slavery like I did, but kind of did it in a different sort of way. And he's one of them. And it was funny because we were basically just goof offs in, general math freshman year. And that's kind of how I got to know him. And we, sitting in the back of the room, chit chatting while we're failing math because we, barely even showed up. And, here it is 35 years later, we're both living off grid in the middle of nowhere, doing, sort of similar things. And we're like, and we both actually, he didn't finish high school where I was at. He moved to Phoenix. And then I eventually, 10 years after high school or so, moved to Phoenix, but we never even got together then because we were just, I sort of knew him and, from back in, one or two classes. And then we kind of saw what each of us were doing, like, holy shit, it's weird that both of us are doing this. So that's the one guy who's really sort of made a shift. But yeah, for the most part, I got together with 3 or 4 guys that I went to high school with, and 2 of them I went to grade school with when I was back in Wisconsin in August. And, it's the same thing we do all over and again. And I don't mind it every, 4 or 5 years. We talk about olden times and, so-and-so, where so-and-so and catching up that way. But yeah, there's a reason they stayed in town, and because it's a comfortable life. And they just don't ask me the questions that they probably don't want to hear the answers to. They're curious about what I'm doing, but they don't want to really hear about my ideology.
Oh yeah, no,
and they know it because they've read it. So
yeah,
yeah. Well,
very disheartening.
Yeah. Well, I have people like that. I stayed in the town and in the area that I spent most of my life in, up until recently. So. I mean,
townie.
No, I hate it. I didn't like it was always tolerable, on a certain level. But actually, I think, especially in the past year and a half since COVID, that it really became, not because of my friends that I had there, but just the general feeling of being there shifted. And then and then just like the general atmosphere when Trump was president. And then, it's just like the weird experience of being the only person in the crowd wearing a mask, going into a place to get something, being the only person that's wearing a mask in the entire crowd, and just
sheeple. You're sheeple.
Yeah. Like, it's like the week that I left last week, Idaho, what do they call it? They enacted crisis care at the hospitals all across the state. And so I don't know. It's just that feeling like I think it was good I got out. Just that feeling that this place is sinking, and it's just the attitude is just really weird. I don't like it. It doesn't feel right.
No, my sister made a good point. My sister lives in the town we both went to high school with, and she's married and has kids, and who are adults now. And she said to me recently, she said, I didn't realize how conservative our town was until Trump. And I was like, really? That's what I was thinking. Like, really? I mean, I get it. It takes it to another level, and you see the divide a little more. But I mean, but she doesn't have those conversations even with me. And that's kind of how she runs her life. She doesn't talk about things that are, going to be controversial or emotional on some levels. And so I show up every, so often and stay at her house. And then I go outside, to whatever, go for a run in the morning. And their neighbors that live directly across the street are Trumpies, who they get along with, on a, sort of civil level.
Yeah.
But my brother-in-law is over there the other day, and the guy goes, hey, you got hippies living there or something? My brother-in-law goes, yeah.
Yeah.
I should have set up like a fucking, a sun shower in the front yard, and
oh yeah, just went all in, baby. Yeah.
All in. Just a fucking campfire right in the grass.
Oh yeah. Whole bunch of tie-dyed shirts on, man.
Tie-dye. I'm sleeping out there. I'm squatting a dump right there. I don't know. I'm just digging a hole.
You've got your bush that you take a shit behind. Yeah.
Right. right.
Oh man.
Wow.
But you know, on that whole trip, I was in two situations. I had to wear a mask. One was in a rest, I think it was a gas station somewhere in Middle America, and the other one was in a microbrew place that my town opened. And then the other time on the way back was in New Mexico. And today I went to town for the first time in a very long time. My town, Silver City, that I live near, and I went to Walmart. And I could not believe 98% of the people had masks, and those that didn't had a mask, at least in the general area if they wanted to put it up. I saw one person in the whole store, and I was in there an hour, that had no mask whatsoever. And there were no signs to mask up or anything.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, I'm actually really impressed by this. Like, this is really weird.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is. I can't even imagine it here in Texas. I can't even fathom.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, in the microbrew place, it was really weird in my hometown in Wisconsin was, you know, you walk in and there's a person at the counter, and to order, you have to wear a mask, and they have a mask on. But then they bring you your beer, and you don't have to have masks on at the table. So I'm sitting, you know, with, 10 people, all maskless. And this person walks up with the drinks with the mask on. I'm like, so what's the fucking point?
Yeah.
Of me walking up there with a mask on to talk to you one-on-one, but then you walk and face 10 of us.
Yeah.
So I was
it does make sense.
at some level, we're doing some really stupid shit that feels like airport security stuff. Like, it feels like we're protecting each other, but we're just we really don't know what to do in these situations. So we're just making shit up a little bit.
Exactly. Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. I think it's like when you try and do two things that are diametrically opposed to one another, right? You want to continue this particular civilization, keep the economy running and everything else, but at the same time, be beholden to the science. And when those two things aren't clicking, then you're always gonna, I guess, acquiesce to the thing like you feel like you need most. So you're gonna try to do something, but it's not going to be where it's the detriment to the economy. So,
Right.
I mean, we see that before and everything else. Like the Green New Deal and all this other bullshit they have going on.
Right. So,
Yeah.
Um,
Well, here it's the exact opposite from where I was at in Idaho. Like, it's not only that people wear masks, but they'll wear it even when it's not necessary. Like, people are just like riding their bikes around outside
Right.
and they have their masks on. Like, it's like it goes almost to the other end, to the point where I'm like, it's kind of unnecessary because you're outside. It's like, I don't know. It's funny.
It's unnecessary, but I never feel triggered by that.
Oh no,
the thing
no.
is
I'm
about,
like, it's
I
fine.
know, not you, that's not in your psyche, but here in Texas, even when you were like, we had mandatory masks and all that, you could tell people were just like wanted to rip people's masks off for some reason, right? I mean, it's crazy out here in Texas. There's a whole other level of insanity here. I mean, I don't give a damn if it's north, south, east, or west, man. These cats are wild out here.
Well,
that's a special state.
You got that right.
Well, I
Although Florida might be a little worse now that I think about it.
Little rivalry there.
They're right. That's it. They're jockeying, boy. They're like the Larry Bird and Magic Johnson of the United States. They're back and forth, babe. Back and forth.
That's right. Who's more nuts?
Well, I wanted to ask Forrest, because you are there in Texas. I don't know, like, how is it for you out there as far as like, do you get any kind of like confrontation from people at all, like when you're out there?
No. But I think it's because I kind of carry myself like, you're not gonna put your hands on me. And I haven't been working out or anything like that. Not like like 15 years ago, I'll put you through a wall. But I ain't lifted in a long time. I'm just getting back into my running thing and everything else. But my point being is that like, you're just not gonna do anything to me and not pay some penalty. Like that's just how I carry myself. It's just not, and that's not meant being a tough guy. It's just like, you're just not going to do something to me and not have me do something in return. Now, I've told people this before. Now, you might get me today. But to quote Red Fox, I'll get you tomorrow. Yeah, I'm going to get you tomorrow. And you'll just be walking into your house and then all of a sudden everything will just go dark. It'll just go dark. And then it'll be me standing over you with a baseball bat in my hand after I put in work on you. Because
you big old dummy.
There you go. You know what I'm talking about. So in all honesty, I don't I don't go any place where I feel like I'm going to have an issue also, right? I'm not going to go to some shit kicking bar where I know that more than likely I'm going to say something or do something, because now once I clock out, I ask me all the time. I mean, I don't put on air. That's why I know like I'll never get married again, because more than likely if I was to get married, it had to be a woman that has like friends that are just like me. She probably had to be an orphan, not have no family that she's close to, right? Nobody that she had to acquiesce to, because I'm not going to be, and I learned this in my last marriage, like I can't be in my house and not say what I want to say at any given moment. It's okay if I go to somebody else's house and then I say, okay, well, this person's company is worth me going over here and having to acquiesce a certain degree. Okay, that's fine. But I'm never going to acquiesce in my house again. I don't give a damn who's in here, somebody's parents or whatever else. Because I haven't gone through everything I've gone through in my life. And I'm not saying I've gone through any worse or more or better or whatever else than anybody else. But yet and still, I have gone through enough for at least I deserve that, if nothing else, which is to be in a certain place where I can just be totally honest. Like when I talk with you guys, I don't have to worry about what I'm going to say, how it's going to sound, or anything like that. I can just talk and be free.
I think that's part of what I learned, maybe just by pure luck, is when I think Karen was the first person that I actually had a long-term relationship with, where I wasn't, sort of playing two different roles. Like I have plenty of friends who have two different lives. They have their life like when they're around their wife, and then they have their life when they're around their boys, and they have their own sort of two worlds. Like she goes out with her girls, you go with your boys, and the two shall rarely meet. And so Karen's like the boys. She just kind of hangs and nothing really bothers her. And I've never had to watch what I say around her. And so that's another really, I guess the older I get, it seems to be more rare that I see that in people. Like, first of all, that we both agreed that we were going to go do this, but then, the idea that we don't have these dual lives, and a lot of people in my past, it's certainly do. So it's got to be exhausting to run two different worlds.
Yeah, I've done it.
And
not even with my marriage, but just
I'd say most.
Oh yeah, I can say like I would not have had any relationships with women, especially as I got older and I started learning more, like in my late 20s and early 30s. If I didn't acquiesce in some aspect to, okay, well, just to have a girlfriend or a paramour, a lady, then I have to say, okay, well, I can't be 100% all the time. I have to tone it down. I got to make sure I don't say this. Now at 48, going to be 49 here in a few weeks, it's not worth it, right? No. Like it's too exhausting. I can't go through those mental gymnastics anymore. And I just said, hey, you know what? If I never invite somebody into my life, now I date, but I'm saying like really like invite somebody in my life if I ever have to do that again, because it's just too exhaustive, and I'm too old and I'm too tired to do that.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, fuck.
When I dated somebody that was Brazilian, and I went down to Brazil to be with them for two months, among other things. And there was like a couple things going on. It was Brazilian culture versus U.S. culture. So there was that layer of it where I think in a general sense, and I think it's also like being white. I think that's part of it too, and probably being Mormon.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, right. Like a lot of that, right? But this thing where you don't say exactly what you mean. You say. You're trying to say something with you want to avoid the most difficult conversation or the most the thing that may create conflict. So you think, but if you avoid it by how you phrase things or how you avoid certain conversations, and it's a passive form of communication that like I grew up with, and I think a lot of people grow up with in North America. And in Brazil, it's really not like that. Like they're much more direct. They just say exactly how they feel. So if you're having a family, like if you're at a family event, instead of everybody like walking on eggshells around each other, everyone just sort of says exactly how they feel about each other. Sometimes they get in little fights, but then it gets resolved really quickly. And so there was like that conditioning. And so like me being there, And then in our relationship, like that shit came up all the time, and she would get so fucking angry at me like all the time, and I didn't understand why, and it just like it took a long time for me to kind of recognize like what was actually happening, and like I would avoid saying certain things, and she would know that I was avoiding saying certain things, so that would piss her off more, and it was just this whole like, you know, it didn't work out obviously, but you know, there's. What you're both talking about with playing the kind of different parts, like I think after going through that whole experience, after that relationship ended, I just kind of like learned like, you know, you can't. It's really not worth having a relationship if you can't just be, you know, say what you really feel. And I'm not saying it's easy. Like I still struggle with it. It's really deeply conditioned, I think, and I've had to work through it a lot, but. Just being really direct and honest with your partner is like really crucial. And if you could find somebody you can be that with, then it should work.
Yeah. Karen talks about don't speak in code. In other words, you know, she's always like, and she could tell that like, we'll meet new people and she'll come back. She's like, oh my God, the code talking going on there. I'm like, yeah, you know, it's one of those things. You're like, at some point, you just like Forrest was saying earlier, and this is even true in casual situations, and he's brought this up a million times in his writing, and I just don't have time to play pretend and get to know you as much as I used to. I kind of like, I just like meeting people on a particular level like this now, you know, and I go back and visit folks. I'm into seeing and catching up and stuff like that, but I think it's because it's limited and it's only once in a while that I enjoy those interactions. I'd have a hard time at like Forrest does at work and being in the lounge and and you know, hey, how's it going? What do you know? Where are you in the Civil War at this point? You know, because we're teaching history or something, and not really caring what their answer is. So yeah, that's a big thing is I think people speak in code a lot, and there's situations where, you know, you don't want to be brutally honest right off the bat with somebody probably if it's maybe because you just don't know how they're going to react, but you can feel them out. But, you know, after a while, yeah, you need to say it. Otherwise it just bubbles.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's very, and you guys know about like, because I text you guys through Facebook and let you know like certain things that's going on at my job. And it's Texas, so everything is right wing. And like all you read about as far as the right wing people who are don't think that the election was stolen, think that January 6th are those cats that got caught up in the political not uprising, what they call it, treasonous uprising. That's what I like to call it. The J6, yeah. Think that they're political prisoners and everything as you can think of. These were all those cats are. And the reason I can deal with them is because I just keep them at arm's length. I don't really talk to them. I'm also just like listen to what it is that they're saying, because that's my only finger on the pulse of what's going on here in America when it comes to that contingent of people that we see or read about every day on the news. I'm not going to hang out with people like that in my personal life, right? So for me, and I say anybody, I tell anybody, it's like Jane Goodall with the chimpanzees or whatever. I'm just observing them in their natural habitat, and they're so comfortable being there. And it's basically, and I can tell anybody this. People say like the United States becoming more socialist or liberal or whatever it may be. I don't see it. I mean, like when I think about like my professional life from the time that I started engineer 25 years ago to today, I would be hard pressed to think of one white person, one that I know would be like, oh, well, yeah, universal health care, or we need to have this or deal with that, and have even a liberal leaning. Most of them would just be the same as I see out here, which is that, yo, you know what? Trump got shafted. You guys know, you guys, they naturally assume like me, I'm a liberal black guy, right? We know you stole that election. We know you stole that election. I'm like, I didn't vote for any of these cats, man. They all burn in hell for all I care.
I love just the reaction. Like if you truly in your heart believe that this election was stolen, wouldn't you just do a little more than, I don't know, bitch about it? Like you live in a country where you are actually now telling me this was stolen and that's your response. Like, where's the freaking groundswell?
Well,
go ahead.
Oh,
go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say, I think that there was that. That's what led to the January 6th. Because I think that's what's
Yeah,
so.
but then it was selfie time. That's not.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was.
Yeah.
It was
If you're
a
gonna
mix.
go in,
Yeah,
you gotta go.
it was a mixed bag. That's why I think like that's what's so freaky about. Yeah, it is that like what you just said, but I think it's also that. Yeah, I do think people have a general feeling now that the stakes are high and like that these like I mean the QAnon stuff is the idea that the people that are running everything are like pedophiles
Right.
and they're like stealing children and like I don't know there's like this and then you have the people that are anti-vax they literally think that they're being I think they like I do think there are people that I'm kind of vaguely aware of that I've known in the past that I just follow online just I like a little window into their world and I see what they're
Oh, yeah.
posting.
I love that.
They're like they think that they're gonna be thrown into a camp. I mean, I think that they're freaking out. They think that like, okay, now they're doing the vaccine mandate. Biden has now they're gonna make us take it, and now we're all gonna get sterilized, and it's just this weird shit that's not based in reality. And I think if things keep on going the way they are, I do think that yeah, we might see something of a. Well, we kind of already are. I mean, in a way, we're sort of seeing like little examples of white people or whoever freaking out, doing random acts of violence, because they feel like their rights are being taken away. And
Yeah.
but
I think for me, like if I legitimately thought the election was stolen, and I thought that we were going to be thrown in camps, and I thought we were being forced to get these vaccines, and blah 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 blah. If that was the level of thinking I was at, I would have been gone a long time ago. Like
No doubt.
that. My whole point is people don't want to risk anything.
Yeah.
They like to talk about it, and they like to talk about Civil War II, Electric Boogaloo, but they, when it comes down to like literally risking like your property, mainly, it's rare. So you got a few, several hundred that went in and broke through, and we want into this building, and they got in and went, oh.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
Now do I do?
They didn't know what to do.
They're,
they didn't know what to do. I mean, let's face it. They actually had the building. They were like, well, let's write this note. Or let's take Nancy Pelosi's notebook.
Right.
Take her computer. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
They had no
Put your feet
plan
up on the
whatsoever.
desk,
Yeah, exactly.
Take the lectern.
Yeah. It's like
the Heisman pose with the lectern.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I think Forrest, you talked about like some of these people you interact with that are wearing, these, and I see this all the
White
time.
supremacists. Oh yeah, symbols.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's all around.
And it's not to say that isn't founded in like obviously it's a real thing. Obviously, it goes without saying, but like. I think with so much of our political ideologies now, it's like Mike, you're saying, like people don't want to take the actual risk of doing like, so if there really is this horrible conspiracy that's happening and our freedoms are being taken away and we're all of that, right? It doesn't seem to go beyond just like, this is my identity. Like I identify as this, I'm going to buy t-shirts and I'm going to like physically demonstrate what I think and feel about this, but it's not really going to go beyond that. You don't really see a lot of.
It's code.
It's code.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I was about to say exactly.
I see that, and I see that on the left too. I just want to say I see that.
Oh yeah, it's all over the left.
Oh, I mean, I do it. I do it. I mean, because I'll vet somebody if I just meet. I don't naturally assume like, let's say you're white or black or whatever, that you're going to identify with me, but I don't want to just throw the baby out with the bathwater and think everybody that I meet is just some, right-wing piece of shit. So, I'm just going to stick my toe in the water though. I'm not just going to jump in, and then once I don't need to be talking to you too long. This might end up where one of us have to kill each other. So I'm going to go off after that. But I don't ever want to get to the point, as far as me personally in my life, of thinking like, everybody's this piece of shit asshole, and that no one out here thinks like I do. Now it's only a handful that I can have an honest conversation like with you guys and just be above board and not have any issues that's going to be blowback or someone's going to curse me out or something like that. But I don't ever want to just think everyone in this world is just useless, because then I have allowed all of the insanity that I've seen throughout my life and even see to this day to just infect me to a point where I can't have that loving personal relationships with those who think like I do. So I don't ever want to give that up. I just can't do that. I'd rather be dead than do that, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, it's I mean, I don't know how. I mean, you're a black guy in Texas. I mean, you're a freaking miracle on some levels. That and during this time period too, where and then you, I mean, I'm. You want to talk about holy cow? You want to feel like entitlement. Those guys wearing those shirts in their place of work and knowing nothing's going to be said or done about it is the epitome of privilege and entitlement. That is like, wow.
Yeah. You know, and it's you know, like I don't work at a rinky-dink place. I mean, this is supposed to be quote unquote professional place, but I'm not working in somebody's garage out here. And I wasn't shocked. I was just like, oh, okay, it's like that, huh? Oh, well, there you go. So at least I could say you cats are at least honest to a certain extent. But as you said, it's cold words, because that way they don't even have to talk with somebody who comes to the door and they question like, well, what do these people think? It's right there on there. Got the black flag right there, man, and freedom, and then you know you think it is close to like wearing a Confederate flag as possible without actually doing it.
Yeah,
that's
how I feel about the American flag now. When I see the American flag, I sort of have that Confederacy feel to it. You know, like when you got to wear the flag, just the United States flag, to me, it's just like it's a weird dynamic. And I think I've mentioned this before. Like when I was in Ireland, you know, people were very proud to be Irish, and but it felt different. Like they were proud for like actual, legitimate, tangible reasons. And most of the people that they held up were those who were, you know, resistant to tyranny. But we do try to do the same thing. It's just that we don't know what tyranny is.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, like here, like you see people driving their trucks and they have big U.S. flags flying behind it, and it could be just the U.S. flag. And I get weird vibes from that.
Yeah,
you know, and I mean it's also the fact that we're like, you know, we understand what the United States is, and we're not proud of it. So I could never imagine any of us like flying a flag, like in any, you know what I mean? But even someone who's just like middle of the road, like kind of a liberal or like a moderate conservative.
Oh, no. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just like normal, right? Like I see American flags all the time.
Oh, my parents put it up like on, you know, the particular holidays, Memorial Day and 4th of July and stuff like that. And, you know, they're good liberals. But for me, like it's changed since, you know, Forrest and I were kids. I didn't think anything of it. Even there wasn't this dynamic, I guess. And maybe that dynamic I feel started to change in my life once Reagan came into power. The flag started to mean something different on some level for maybe me and a whole. I can't pinpoint it exactly, but I feel like that was the time period where I'm like, oh yeah, this is somebody's co-opting this particular symbol for a particular ideology. And
well, you know what? I was so in the chat. We have our group chat, and it's actually the 21st today. So 10 days ago was September 11th, the 20th anniversary, and I was busy moving, so I didn't have a chance to like, because I think everybody was kind of sharing like where they were at when. And I'm the youngest of the group, so I never had a chance to say anything. But I just, speaking of the American flag, it reminded me, because I just wanted to share this, because I was 12 years old, right? So I remember on that day, I was 12, right?
I was gonna ask, were you still inside the womb of your mother, or maybe you were still a sperm?
Yeah, I remember being. I watched the TV.
12.
I could hear it.
I know, right?
I know.
Oh my God.
I know.
That's just ridiculous.
I
How
know.
could you possibly be 12?
I know. Well, 20 years ago, man. Lots happened in 20 years, but
I know, right? There's a lot of tread off that tire in 20 years that's taken to get here, right?
It's just so weird to say I was 34 and you were 12.
I know.
Are you even 34 yet?
I'm 32. I'm 32. Yeah. So 20 years ago. Yeah. Yeah. Cause I was going to school that morning. You know, and you know, it was like, so I woke up and I went downstairs. My mom woke me up for school, you know, and she's making breakfast and the TV is on. And it was like the Today Show, one of those morning shows. And like the first footage of the first tower had been hit. Of course, no one knew what was going on yet. They were like, it was an accident, you know, it was just no one knew what was happening. So, but you know, that morning I felt like something big was happening. I mean, it was more than just that. So, you know, I got ready for school, went to school, and I just remember like all the adults, all the teachers, there was just this feeling like they were all concerned about something. And then I remember throughout the day, like obviously the second tower was hit. At some point, the Pentagon was hit. They knew another plane had been hijacked. So like everyone was starting to get the feeling like something was happening, obviously. And at a certain point in school, we just started watching the news. Like we weren't even doing lessons. We were just watching the news, and we watched the towers collapse, you know, the whole thing. And that was actually like, that event was, because I was only 12 years old, but like that was what got me interested in politics, because that kind of blew my whole world open, because I was just this sheltered kid, had no idea about geopolitics. I didn't understand any of this shit, you know. But and also like my aunts, I have two of my mom's sisters and a few others. They wanted to take me on a vacation to San Diego, and they scheduled it for September 15th. So we were gonna fly, and they were like, "Let's not do that. We're gonna drive." So we drove from Idaho or wherever down through Nevada, and we stayed in Las Vegas that night. So this was September 15th, like 4 days after 9/11. We're in Las Vegas. It was completely dead. It was a ghost town. Everybody had canceled all of their shit there. And you know, if you've ever been to Vegas, it's like a horrible city. But you walk through this, you know, on the strip, right? Usually it's like strip clubs, casino, just these huge fucking billboards. All of it was just American flags and American eagles and God Bless America on all of those billboards, while the entire town was just dead. It was just vacant, and it was very surreal.
Were they still handing out flyers at that time in Vegas? You know, you used to walk through, they will hand you those flyers like for strip clubs and meet a call girl and all that shit. Yeah. I didn't partake. Now I'm just asking.
No.
They're like little business cards.
Yeah. Oh my god. I don't remember if there was that time I went. I've been there a few times, and they were
just handing out flags, Forrest.
Yeah,
American
I know, right?
tiny little flags.
But
the titties on them.
But
I was just about to say.
But you know, you just remember that time of like, that was when there was like, you talking about the American flag, like everywhere you went for weeks and weeks and weeks, there was just U.S. flags everywhere, and everybody was all united, and of course that unification, that feeling that everybody was feeling was shock, and obviously they were grieving and mourning this horrible thing that happened. Of course, there was little to no self-reflection of how we got there in the first fucking place. No one's going to figure out, well, why did they do that? No, they hate us for our freedoms and blah. You know, the whole the narrative kicked in immediately, and Bush is like, we're going to get them. We're going to find them. We're going to kill them, you know, and it's just like, yeah, and everybody just bloodthirsty, just like, there's like, it was Osama bin Laden. We're going to go into Afghanistan. We're going to bomb the shit out of them. And then 20 years later, we're pulling out of Afghanistan, the longest U.S. occupation in history. And it's just like, and I just want to say, like, that was my teenage and adult years encapsulated in that 20-year period. So, like, anyway, it's just interesting that there's kids now, they're 20, or a little younger, and they their whole life was post 9/11. It's just interesting. Right. I don't know. I just wanted to reflect on that, like.
I don't think that most young people, though, even understand that the United States was in Afghanistan, or even understand 9/11. They were born afterwards. It's like I forget. I was listening to some. He's a liberal guy, but he was saying something very true. He's like, I don't think most people even thought about Afghanistan for the most part up until now when they started to pull out.
Yeah,
you know. But I don't think it was a prevalent thought in their mindset when it came to on a daily basis, right? Oh, we need to get out of there. Or what's going on over there? I mean, you can't live in a society when, I don't know, Kim Kardashian is a billionaire, and then she has X amount of millions of followers. You got the young lady, I forget her name, the recording artist, and she just said something about the coronavirus and that
Cardi
her
B.
cousins got thank.
Yeah.
his balls blew up and some other
Nicki
stuff.
Minaj.
Nicki Minaj. And I'm like, you can't have a society that's actually going to take something as serious as what's going on in Afghanistan, then at the same time have these people who are so prominent in said society. It's impossible. So even now, it's like all this. Like I can say, like with Vietnam, and I was watching. I told you guys I watched Chinatown the other day, and to equate like pop culture with the war at the time, which was Vietnam, people on a daily basis were still knowing what was going on with that, because if it wasn't for the fervor that you had here in the United States, it would not have ended. Right. I remember Lyndon Johnson said in I think it was like 66, 67, Walter Cronkite was very pro-war up until that time when you saw it was a losing effort. Then he changed his spiel. He did a 180. And I can't remember the exact quote, but LBJ said that if I lose Walter Cronkite, I've lost America. Right. So he knew at that joint that, and then as you saw, it started to get like on a downward spiral as far as us wanting to be over there and so on and so forth. Then by 74, we pulled out, if I'm not mistaken. So that was a big change. But so what I'm saying is that, like, if you look at something like Chinatown, right, a movie that was primarily based about the water wars in California in the early part of the 20th century, I think that there's a not similarity, but that tells you about how people viewed their arts at the time, as well as their politics, which they were much more nuanced and understanding in the 1970s than today, because there's no way you could take a movie like Chinatown and release it today and have people that are going to watch it. They're like, what the hell is water war? This is some bullshit. Give me something like,
I need flying people.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever pop culture superhero movie that's out there. So I think like it's indicative of how we've just gone on a downward spiral as far as our intellect is concerned, more so than anything else. I don't even think most people can understand the intricacies of us ending up in Afghanistan, or exactly what was said about Bush after we initially decided to attack Iraq, and then how we got into Afghanistan and so on and so forth. People don't even care nowadays. I think they just are so happy being stupid that they don't ever want to wake up from that slumber, right? They just want to stay there, Yeah. Now they have no choice with the coronavirus. They have no choice with this, but they still trying to, or even go back to it, right? People keep talking about, oh, well, we need to get back to business as usual and get back to our normal lives, but look at what that normal life was, or what we're trying to get back to. It's never going to be like that again, It's not this. It's going to be, I live right here really fast. I live right here in Texas. If you look at the Ogala Aquifer, it stretches from Texas all the way up into Montana and provides us a bread basket here in America, or even across the globe to a certain extent, but definitely here in America. I mean, in another, I think, estimates are like 2050, 2060 at most, it's going to be gone. We're like halfway there right now. Yeah. And the only reason that we haven't had another Dust Bowl is because we use the same drilling processes for the water that we did for oil and gas, all this other stuff. We just were able to get water with this, but you can only drill so far before you run out. And you're starting to see that now, where the government's putting holes on, okay, well, the farmers can only use this much at this particular time. And they're doing the same thing with the coronavirus, which is what? You infringe upon my freedom. You infringe upon my freedom. That's my water. I should be able to get as much as I want, use how I want. And it's like petulant children. But at a certain junction, when you use it all, it's not coming back. But people just can't seem to get past that type of mentality here in America. And let's face it, man, really fast. It's all based upon the wants and desires of the consumer that has always driven America. And now once that's impeded to any extent, then you start seeing exactly what happens to us in this country.
Right. 48 choices of salad dressing.
Exactly. Yeah. I want my balsamic vinaigrette.
Yeah, people get mad when their TV shows get canceled, and they they'll write some sort of letter then.
Bingo.
Dude,
exactly.
People will sign petitions for that. It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Right. Yeah. MoveOn.org.
Like here in Texas, right? I heard my my technical lead. He was talking about California. Like, they can like drop off the map or something like that. And I didn't say anything, but I was like, this fool does not understand that half your fruits and vegetables come from the state of fucking California.
Right.
But he just had to. It's all lies, man. I had to talk with a young cat because I was in this text message with a couple friends, and Gavin Newsom ended up staying governor of California.
Yeah.
And my man said, like, yeah, this is a blue state or whatever. I said, hold your horses, man. Then I broke it down with him in history. I said, California provided us Ronald Reagan. He was the governor of California in the late '60s. Then became a president in 1980. I said, and if you look at how the governorship of California has gone, it was Pete Wilson, Republican in the 80s. It was George Duke-Majan in the late 70s and early 80s, Republican, right? We just had Arnold Schwarzenegger come out there, right? Kevin McCarthy, the head of the House, he's from out there. So don't act like California's just bashing. And even if you look at a federal election, and I didn't know the thing about Gerald Ford. The rest I knew. But if you look at Reagan got California 2 times. Bush got California when he ran in '88, right? So you had, and then Nixon did, going all the way back to the '60s, Nixon onward, for about 20 years, a little bit over 20 years. We were voting Republican presidents into the White House.
Right.
So don't sit there, even though Carter won, he still got California. So don't sit there and tell me that California is bashing liberalism. And then, of course, even though there's no leg to stand on, I broke this history down. He still is of the mind that California is just like this enclave of liberal motherfuckers. And I'm like, it's like once people want to believe something so much, and then when you provide them with the evidence, same with the coronavirus, they still can't fucking accept it.
No.
It's the hardest thing in the world to get past that barrier, man. I just don't try to do it anymore. I tell you whatever, but I don't take it with me anymore as far as you accept it or not. Now you can just fuck off.
Nah, it's not worth the energy.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the coronavirus thing is weird because
I used to have this conversation, but I just don't. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh no, I was to say the coronavirus thing is weird when you talk about people that like I'll give people the benefit of like, okay, misinformation is so prominent, so prevalent, so pernicious. It's so common now. I'll grant people I'll say, okay, I get it. Like, I understand why you believe certain things or you're doubtful about certain, I'll grant them that. And then there's just a certain point. Like, we've been seeing so many people that are like huge denialists of COVID and anti-vax, and then they get it, or they don't get the vax, they get COVID. And they're just struggling so hard with it. They either get super, super sick and somehow make it through, or they die from it. Obviously, if you're dead, you can't change your mind at that point. But you know what I mean, right? Like there's this thing where it's like there's something so, I don't know what the fuck, it is ideology, but there's something like, I can't quite understand like what it, sorry, I can't even think of the words for it. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, you're on your deathbed. You're dying from this thing. You're in an ICU where they didn't have any room for you, so you had to wait for a while to get a bed. Like it's just like everything that you could possibly see in front of you that could show you that you were wrong is right there, and it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter, and that just is it's so common now. Like people will just not believe it. They just can't. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with that. It's very strange to me. It's really creepy.
I mean, we see the same thing with religion to me. I mean, that's how I see it, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No matter how much evidence is provided that this isn't going to happen, or that it's just like a leaf in the wind as far as how things go. It might be good in this way, might be bad in that way. But people always have to feel like there's some greater purpose to their own life. Like God is looking out for them individually, right? Like there's a superior being up there, and he's just looking at Forrest Palmer. Hey, Forrest, I want this to happen to you today, or that to happen to you today. Really? And it's that self-importance that people want to feel like the fucking universe actually revolves around them. Fuck the foolishness about the sun revolving around the earth, right? People that were killed in the Spanish Inquisition just for saying that. Let alone something like, well, you know what? There is no God, and you aren't the center of this superior being's universe where he's trying to decide on what it is that happens to you or doesn't happen to you. because you know the old saying where I grew up, and I've never got an answer to this, and I don't even ask older, especially black people, this anymore because I wouldn't have a relationship with them. But I was like, I always say, everything happens for a reason, right? Everything happens for a reason. And then you ask them like, okay, well, what about like a child being raped? What about pedophilia?
Mhm.
What good is there to come out of that? You know what I mean? Like, what reason is there for having? Because when they say, I mean, like, there's always something you can learn from it. Or I said, so what is a child supposed to learn? You never get an answer. In the same way as you say, like, okay, well, God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. And then you say, okay, well, what about people that are born as hermaphrodites? Right? There's no answer. They just look at you like crazy. Like, but I'm like, well, okay, well, if you can't explain that anomaly, then how can you say like this is the normative and this was by some superior being? Of course, they'll say like, well, the mama is the cause of that, or the daddy if they live right, and then the sins of the father and the mother visits upon the kid. But my point being is that like there is no easy answer, and people are always looking for the easy answer, right? Mm-hmm. And that's it. Yeah. I mean, if you even look at ivermectin. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
No, I think it's to your larger point, what Patrick brought up too. It's still we're living lives through symbolism, or we're living lives through code, and we're not actually, when those things don't line up with what's actually happening in reality. I think that's what we're seeing now, up close in this country finally at an accelerated rate. Is we're so busy living through language and ideas and thoughts that once we hit the reality of the climate changing and a virus coming through, that we don't have the tools to really deal with it, because we've never dealt with things directly. We've always indirectly dealt with them via, talking about a tree rather than actually interacting with a tree, and whatever that means to people. That's the thing. People don't even know how to interact with people, let alone something that's not human, because everything seems to be in code, or via language or via thought, that any direct contact with something is either squashed, killed, ignored, or denied. So I don't know. I'm rambling.
Yeah. No, that's
no,
true,
not really. I mean, not at all. Excuse me. The fact of the matter is that once you're right, all these things are code. I mean, like it's like even me being a black person, right? People will look at me, and the same way as those cats had their flag at my job expressing their white supremacists and conservative leanings and the whole nine, even my skin color, most black people think like, oh, he got to believe in Jesus. You see what I'm saying? So, so he got to believe in Jesus, or sometimes like growing up in Los Angeles,
that fucking light behind you.
I know, right? That's gonna give it up, right? Maybe I am Jesus. That's
right.
Maybe I'll come
just
back.
Discovering it.
Yeah, right.
Holy shit,
man.
Forrest is Jesus.
I know, right? But even the coronavirus, right? I tell people this all the time. Now, this is what I noticed, though, before I go off on that tangent. Have you noticed that people have stopped threatening Fauci as much right now? Like, up until, now it's directed towards Biden, because he's the one that laid out the mandates and everything like that. And I've noticed, because just like you said, Patrick, I mean, I'll tell anybody, I keep a good number of people still as my friends so I can see what they're talking about, because that's the only time, even online, that I'm going to interact with these people. I'm not going to talk with them. They don't come on my page or anything like that and say anything. So I'll just use the same thing as at work. I just use it just like to get a feel as to what is going on. And the reason, and I know the reason that they haven't said anything even close to what they said about Fauci is because what's going to happen if you threaten the president? You're going to go to jail. Yeah, so that's why you haven't heard anybody say anything bad about Biden. They'll bitch about the mandates. But you haven't seen any memes calling him Mingler. You haven't seen any memes or people's kind of like, he just needs to be taken to a guillotine or anything like that. They've said they don't like the mandates, but they've never said anything about him personally. So it's kind of tamped that down, which I'm glad, because people act like Fauci is the one in the lab doing this shit. All right, no, I'm the drone in Sector G. I'm a Homer Simpson, motherfucker. I'm the one that works on shit like that. Then all he does is have his weekly meetings or whatever, or gets with the press, and then he extols everything it is that millions like me do each and every day. So right there, you acting like I said. So if you were talking about killing Fauci, you got to go kill your second cousin once removed who works in this lab. You're going to have to go kill maybe your own kid who works at some other lab and this, that, and the other. So people just want to use him as the focal point because they don't want to understand exactly how something like that is actually dealt with in society. It's easy to have a boogeyman. But to understand what it takes for something like that to even be addressed on a global level, global scale, no, I'd rather just make the man who's telling me something I want to hear the devil and actually know that the devil is in the fucking details. I don't know that. Don't want the details. Just show me the man I need to hate and keep the narrative going.
Yeah, and you know what's going to happen, and when you say things like that, which make total sense, they make the assumption, this is where there's no nuance, which you mentioned earlier, is they assume that all of a sudden, just because you're saying that now Forrest is a huge Fauci fan. Like,
exactly.
Because they don't have any nuance to go, I can say this about somebody and still not agree with particular things that he may say sometimes from time to time. Because, obviously, I don't agree with everything the man has said, and I don't agree with every approach he's taken. But at the same time, I can give particular support in an area that I see common logic in or science in, and still not be a fanboy, so to speak. That's the thing. We've become, it's all or nothing with everything, and this is both sides.
Yeah. Well, I think Mike, we were talking about this before Forrest, you jumped on, but yeah, these, we know many people that their whole thing for so long has been they're anti-authoritarian and they're contrarian.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as something that requires, like the coronavirus, for mass participation in order for it to be dealt with appropriately, because it's the state is doing it, right? The state is like, saying we should get the vaccine and imposing, mask mandates on the state level, and then on the federal level, they're now doing, vaccine mandates and all this. So because the state is saying that it's real and we should do something about it, even if it's half-assed and contradictory, whatever, it's not being handled well, because they're just by default, because they're acknowledging it and saying it's real, we need to do something about it, then they must be trying to take away our, it has to be bad, and it has to be something we have to fight against. So there's no nuanced thought. It's always all or nothing. It's always black and white. And I personally, I'm like, wouldn't it be nice if we all acknowledged the reality of it and we didn't need the state to tell us how to treat one another and how to act right now? Can't we just wear masks because we care about each other and not think that it's just some huge conspiracy to muzzle us or whatever? I don't know, some weird ass thought that people have about it. That would be how I would prefer to do it.
That's what I was saying. You preaching to the choir with that. Well, I tell this all the time. I don't preach to the choir. I just commiserate with people that are on the same level as I am nowadays, right? I'm not preaching to them. I'm just commiserating, baby. So no, I hear you. If anything, it made me feel just like so bad that people that I know didn't want to address this as, okay, well, this is a medical emergency, and just wanted to just say, okay, well, this is nothing but a state introduced pandemic or plandemic, as they like to say, and there's nothing to this. I'm like, man, and once again, the same way as I ask about pedophilia when it comes to God has a purpose and everything happens for a reason and the whole nine. In that same vein, people want to say and I've asked people online, I've asked people that are supposedly on the left about this. Now I don't want to talk about people that's on the right. I have people on the left that think that this is all a pandemic. I'm like, okay, well, if the vaccines in and of themselves that are being introduced by all these giants, Pfizer, and this, that, and other, Johnson & Johnson, okay, well then how do you explain Cuba? Cuba has no, they don't have a corporation. They have a vaccine. So they sent it down to, not Brazil, Venezuela, right? They sent some of theirs down there to Venezuela, and they're working with them on trying to get control of the coronavirus. So where do they play in all this? What is their portion of this grand conspiracy? And I asked people this, and they've never answered me. They've never answered me. Just a simple question. Because it's like knocking over their sandcastle, right? Mm-hmm. They like, no, I can't have you knocking on my sandcastle, FD. because it makes no sense. It's illogical. Even my man, I said Pepe Mujica, right? The ex-president of Uruguay. He was like, yo, man, that shit's real. He was congratulating Cuba on there. And this dude is as down can get. This dude did what, 20 years on lockdown. I think like 15 in solitary confinement. A real badass. He like 85 years old. I mean, like, what reason would he have to lie to people? He got no kids. You can't even leave no legacy. It ain't like gonna give a Pepe 85 years old living on a farm in the hinterlands. And what are you gonna give him $1 billion for? The man he don't think he got a car. I think they got to come in and get his ass and take away that. So it's like, well, what reason does he have to lie? And no one's even answered that. So if nothing else, I will say this about myself. When somebody asks me a question, I'm gonna give you a fucking answer or say I don't know. But I'm not just gonna linger out there and act like what you're saying doesn't have some credence to it, right? Because what that said more than anything else is that you don't have an answer. You're not gonna look for one, and you just want to continue your mindset being one of ignorance and not one trying to actually find out the truth.
Yeah, I mean, this comes to the question I like to ask people is, and I ask this of myself all the time: why do I believe X? Or why do I believe so-and-so saying this? And why have I adopted that particular point of view? Because do I trust, I'll just throw out a name. Do I trust Anderson Cooper? Do I trust, Tucker Carlson? Do I trust Joe Rogan? If so, why? Why does that person, do I consider to be the end all? And I take that and run with it and then call it my own. And I do that to myself, like, why do I believe this so deeply in a particular way? And usually if you believe something really strongly, there's a little bit of an attachment issue going on there clearly as well, because then it doesn't leave any chance or a very small chance for learning to actually happen. And so I find that when I get triggered by something, it's like, maybe I'm grasping onto this pretty tight, and there's some little more nuance to this than I may be giving, a chance to breathe. So,
yeah, it's like you mentioned earlier, Forrest. I think it was like Nicki Minaj. So there's this. It's a stupid thing, right? It's really dumb, but it's interesting because what happened was with Nicki Minaj. She's a rapper. She's whatever. She's very popular. She posted some just flippant thing on Twitter about how her cousin's boyfriend or it's just like one of those things. I heard someone I know someone who knows someone kind of thing.
Right.
In Trinidad, they got the vaccine and their balls got huge. Like, oh no, he probably just had an STD, but whatever. And that
that's what I said.
Right.
Elephantitis.
And so then, she gets defensive because people are calling her out like, that's not true. You can't, that's just hearsay. What are you saying? You're like, you have millions of people on your people that you're speaking to. You shouldn't be spreading that information. And so then Tucker Carlson jumps on it and starts to defend her. So then she shares shit that Tucker Carlson was saying. So then other people started jumping on like, hey, that like Tucker Carlson's a white nationalist, right? And then she's just like, no, she doesn't. And then it just turned into this whole thing, right? So, and then the fucking funniest thing is Tucker Carlson's vaccinated. Like all these fucking Fox News people are vaccinated. They have vaccine protocols. They're only doing what's going to generate more views and more hits for them.
Revenue.
So revenue. So you'll notice though, these so-called leftists or people who are progressive or whatever, when they don't feel like their views are being represented by the left, they will inevitably gravitate towards like, okay, well, at least someone over here is saying it. So they will share people like, and I'm like, okay, you could find one thing you like about what Carlson is saying, but if you listen to what he's actually saying for the majority of his programs on TV every night, he's promoting like white replacement theory, which is some Nazi bullshit. He's doing a whole bunch of like, like white supremacist propaganda, like repeatedly.
And it's not really code at this point. He's literally bleeding blatant.
Yeah.
No, he's not. He's like he'll like maybe use a few words. Like he's just like one word away from saying the hard word that But basically, he's he basically. I mean, he's literally said that immigrants are dirty, and they come into the country, they make the country dirty. I mean, it's the same shit. So anyway, it's just interesting. People will find the one thing that supports their point of view. They don't care about the context of why it's being said. and then they'll just share it or use that as a way to back up their point. And I think you kind of have to think about, the context of this stuff. And I don't know, people aren't doing that because.
But that's why you're not going to make any money doing this, Patrick, because you're not throwing out ridiculous things on a daily basis. That's just, they're not the shiny objects, so to speak. And you're doing long-term interviews and long format interviews, which in a culture that is based on, TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook, I'm surprised on some level you have the listenership that you do. And because it seems to be the Chautauqua, seems to be a thing of the past. This isn't about necessarily gaining knowledge. It's about gaining views, and it's about gaining clicks, and it's about gaining bucks. And so everything's so watered down, and everything is. I mean, you look at the language used in letters during the Civil War by 16-year-old boys who were educated up to like the 5th grade, and the vocabulary is immense. And most of if you read it out loud in your class, half of it they wouldn't recognize the language. They wouldn't know what the words actually mean. We used to read the Scarlet Letter in my AP class, and I would do my best, and I struggled too. I'd have to interpret what the hell this guy's saying, because it's from 160 years ago or 200 years ago about now, and the language was, and the vocabulary was immense, because people they read and they thought, and then they created the image in their head, and they did all the heavy lifting. Now, geez, holy crap! That's why I'm blown away that this thing is still somehow going. How is it still going?
I don't know.
Hey, I'll give this system one thing, if nothing else. These fuckers are resilient. They motherfuckers are resilient, like a motherfucker. They like the James Bond and remember that old show, the 1960s. Yo, man, like, hey man, they keep coming back, but eventually. And like everything else on this earth, I'm sure like every empire that was on this earth had moments where they thought like, oh well, shit, this is it, and then they got past like, oh, okay, But at the end of the day, every civilization has a beginning, a zenith, any that's powerful, that is, and then eventually a collapse. There you go. So it's inevitable. It's just now I'm not even trying to figure out when it happens as far as my personal life is concerned.
Yeah, well, it's happening.
I'm like, okay, well, yeah, exactly. I just don't know when it's just going to peter out, or how it's going to peter out. If it's going to be a hard slam, or if it's just going to just slowly dwindle until we turn around like, damn, everything is gone. I'm not sure.
I feel like this movie's picked up a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, this is a film, and it's like it's been kind of a documentary for a long time, and you kind of go, oh, this is a little slow, and then like, boom, the acceleration.
Yeah.
Really at some level since in my life, since 9/11, things have just kind of really, but then, 2016 forward here, it's like, holy crap, this is really starting to rip along pretty well.
Well,
good.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, like, with 9/11, it really did feel like, a Rubicon, crossing a Rubicon there, because it really did, like, set the stage for so much of everything. Like, obviously we can, where's the beginning of all this? You could go back. I don't know. You could, some people want to go back to Reagan. Some people want to go back to Nixon. Some people want to go back further and further, some people want to go back to like the U.S. Civil War. That was, like, where does it fucking begin? I don't know. You could go back to when Columbus landed, or you can go back even I don't know, where does it really start? But like, at least in modern history, I think 9/11, in a way, I know this sounds fucked up, but like Osama bin Laden kind of won.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. That's it. In stereo, yeah.
He kind of did what he
jab that you're like, oh, that hurt, but then it gets infected, and then at one point,
that's an analogy. Yeah,
that's it. That's all. That's what it was. That's what it was. He just like, he knew he wasn't gonna bring it down like with a terrorist attack all in one go. He's just like, this is going to. I don't know what his intentions were. I can't pretend like I know. Yeah. Well, it's like let's draw this empire into a never-ending war that's gonna drain them of everything, and it's just gonna and everything that's come about culturally since then in the U.S. I mean, I think 9/11 created, and what with George Bush especially as president, that set the stage for someone like Trump to become president. I think like all of the things that happened that led up to that. I don't know.
You just lost half our listeners because you just said Osama bin Laden. You were kind of making the assumption that he did it, and everybody's going, "Oh, wait, what about building 11 or whatever?" And
Building 7, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think I know what I think though.
I think there's plenty we don't know. I get all that. But, some people are like, bin Laden wasn't even a person or whatever. It's just like we're talking about now with coronavirus. Like
He's a hologram.
Some people doesn't think it exists. They don't have any nuance. Because if the state says something, automatically you're so used to being anti-state that again you just throw it all out. You throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Well, I was thinking, or I had this conversation with somebody online. Always some cat that wants to come on my Facebook page and kind of be condescending and lecture me or whatever. I got to smack them down. I said, the fact of the matter is that if you think about it, when it comes to climate change, the science is accepted, right? It isn't like my feelings on climate change aren't part of normative thought of people who aren't scientists or climate scientists on this earth, not even just here in America, but just on this earth. So it's no different for me when it comes to coronavirus. I'm in lockstep. I look at the science, I look at the numbers, I look at in the same vein as somebody will see the number of people that are in the hospital because of coronavirus, and then they'll just dismiss that, and they say that they're on the left. Well, then you're saying the same thing when it comes to you would have to do the same thing when it comes to climate change. Say, okay, well, you don't believe that because there's evidence, but you believe this evidence, but not that evidence.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But the science is the same. The only thing I've ever said about climate science, and I know the same thing with you gentlemen, is that the answers that they're giving us aren't fucking addressing it. That's the only thing I've ever said. Yeah. So when you giving me bullshit that doesn't address the science, then I have a problem. Now, of course, the vaccine doesn't address the science because you still can't catch it. You still can't go to the hospital. You may even still die. It's just an infinitesimal chance of that happening. It's like 99 point whatever % of the ones that do die are people who were unvaccinated, right? But then people don't want to hear say, well, what about the people who still got it and they were vaccinated? Yeah, they don't die. And many times they don't even have to go to the hospital. Now, if they do have to go, the reason that they can't get in there or somebody that does have a medical emergency is because your dumb ass is not vaccinated, right? And that's what pisses me off, especially as somebody whose mother lost her leg at 52 years old. And we can talk about the family history of diabetes that ran through her life. And my mother never did get fat. She didn't drink. She wasn't obese. It's just that on my mother's side, both her parents had diabetes, right? So even if she took care of herself, what she did, it just hit her worse. Now, she didn't take care of herself as she should have with both her parents being diabetic. I would totally acknowledge that. But that being said, she didn't deserve to not have somebody help her if I had to take her to the hospital, which I had to do a few times in my life. And she damn sure doesn't need to have somebody not be able to get into there because somebody is not wanting to do anything. I'm not even talking about the vaccine. I'm talking about you don't want to distance. You don't act like it's real. You think it's all bullshit. But then once you take your ivermectin and the shit doesn't work, where's the first place you go? To the hospital. And you take a bid from somebody who's just trying to survive, who may have a few medical issues, which could happen to me. I'm 48. I feel good. I'm drinking my water. Anybody can see. All right, so I'm trying to take care of myself. I'm gonna get off and I'm gonna run. Man, you know what? This is why you my brother. This is why you my brother. No, because you know what I was just about. You know what I was thinking about saying. I didn't say. I was gonna say, even it's in a plastic bottle. I was gonna say that. I just shot at her. I swear to God, I was gonna say. I was gonna say.
I'm just being a good liberal.
Oh yeah, not exactly right. But so I'm trying to take care of myself. But I am 48, and I am at the age where something could break down on me, and it's just like a car, right? My car right now, I got it working fine, but you never know. I could jump in it tomorrow, and then the check engine light will flash or something like that, or something that's going on, which I'm not sure was happening, but something could go wrong. So I can take it to a mechanic, but I gotta take myself to a mechanic sometime because sometimes they're not gonna catch something in my yearly checkup, right? So
well, that's the thing. I mean, if you give up and you rip on the science and you rip on the medical profession, and because you don't believe in it, you think they're all trying to con you, and you're angry with nurses and doctors and Fauci or whatever, but then you go and use that particular, service.
It's the same doctors. It's the
You
same
just gotta fucking
doctors.
sign off like I believe some things and I don't believe in your bullshit, but so then I'm not gonna ask you for fucking help. It's hypocrisy at the highest level. It's absurd.
But I'd be pissed off, even more so than me. I would be pissed off and livid if my mother couldn't get into a hospital. And you know what? To be quite honest with you, man, y'all parents are still here, and it's all good or whatever. And I looked at it as like, man, I say this all the time. I love my mother. I love my father. You guys know about that situation, but I still loved them. Shit didn't go how I wanted it to go, but I still loved them, and I love my mother. Took care of her to the day that she died. But a lot of people that feel like, okay, well, me and my mother have a special love that everybody else don't have with their parents. That's bullshit. The only thing I say is like, I love my mother and my father just as much as everybody else love their parents. No more, no less. So I like if I'm seeing you guys and your parents are around, I'm like, well, I'm not gonna get vaccinated. And then I was the cause of their death. That would fuck me up. Yeah. That would fuck me up. So for me, there's a greater good at a societal level that, you know what, I'm going to take this so I am not going to hurt a lot of people who don't deserve that hurt.
And that's really why I got vaccinated. Karen and I got vaccinated in mid-June because we knew we were doing this road trip. And I was not going to bring it back to my community of people who are in their 70s and 80s. And I'm the fucking jackass. And even though they're fine with, if they die, they die. That's kind of the attitude around here is, but I don't want to carry that sort of baggage and that sort of weight that I, went and left the state and then came back and, I got, so-and-so sick and now they're gone. Even though for whatever reason, they say they'd be okay with it. I'm not okay with it. Mm-hmm. So it's just common sense. It's an interesting dynamic here. I mean, I think there's 13 of us on this property, and I think 7 of us are vaccinated. And it's to break it down, it's the people that travel the most and the people who are the oldest are generally the ones that seem to be vaccinated. Not in every case, but that seems to be the over number. Well, and it kind of represents the county we live in too. Last time I checked, the county was at about 52%, and that's kind of where we are in this little community within the county. But like I said today, I went to Silver City and went to the Walmart. And it was masked up with no sort of signage or anything. And, it's a county that's full of ranchers. It's full of Mormons. It's full of old hippies. It's full of old Hispanic families. So there's a pretty big mix here. And to see that sort of, I was really shocked because I walked in and I initially didn't even have a mask with me. Karen handed it to me because every place I've gone to, pretty much from here to Wisconsin and back, there was no mask thing going on whatsoever. And it's mainly like go to the restroom at a Flying J or one of those places. And then so she handed it to me and I walked in and I kind of had it here. I walked down. I looked down the aisles and every person I crossed, I was like, holy shit, they're all masked up. Okay, so.
That's good.
Yeah. And then also, I had a number of people. One person here that I was cool with. I'm not going to even mention her name, but she kept asking me like, "Well, are you going to get vaccinated? Are you going to get vaccinated? Like, you ain't going to be my friend." I'm like, man, you think you have a high opinion of yourself. You think that I'm just not going to get vaccinated because you're not going to be my motherfucking friend. You must be out of your mind, or high, or something like that. Because now that's the thing. I don't want to kill anybody else. But that being said, man, I'm 48. I'm at that age where I could be on a ventilator. Now, maybe a few years from now, something might befall me where I actually have to get on a ventilator. But I can't know that there's a chance that I'm going, or more than likely, I'm gonna get in a car wreck and die, and then expect me to travel down the same road. Right? I'm gonna go take another road. Like if you tell me like there's a 50% chance if I go down this street right here and I'm gonna die, I'm like, nah, I'm gonna go someplace else. I'm gonna maneuver around it, right? So I might end up on a ventilator. You never know. But that being said, I'm not going to spit in the face of the reality of the situation. Yeah. Right? I'm not going to do it to myself. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, this trip I took, I thought every conversation was going to be about COVID because, I'd seen people in years and blah, blah, blah. hadn't traveled much because of COVID, and it was very little talk about COVID. And the majority of the people that I came across that I thought there's no way in the world this person is going to be vaccinated, they were. So it was like the Walmart thing too. I kept being like, I'm just actually surprised. Like this group of people that I'm talking to right now, I thought in a million years they wouldn't be vaccinated, and they all are. Yeah. So it kind of helped me, I guess, realize some of the attachment that I had to, the train of thought of like this particular group of people, just because I think they're from my past. They basically have lived in a small town, or they're my wife's friends who lived in a small town and still do it to some extent. They all have a particular point of view, and they're not going to get vaccinated no matter what. Now, some of them probably had pressures from, work and things like that, but they still did it. Yeah. And they seemed fine with it. So that actually, I was like, oh, I felt pretty good. I'm like, wow, people aren't, I guess, as dumb as I thought in some cases. Like people that I didn't give nearly enough credit to, did something that I just didn't see coming. And it wakes me up a little, because I'm like, not everybody that I think's outside of the belief system that I have, or to a greater extent to the right, is completely lost their minds. So,
well, I before I left and moved, it was my dad's birthday, and it's his 70th birthday, so it was like a big deal. So they planned this, like he liked to dance, so they were like, we're gonna rent this place and we're gonna have a dance, and a bunch of families gonna show up. It was like a whole thing, right? So like they were gonna have a big gathering, and my dad, so my mom is vaccinated, I'm vaccinated, a few other siblings of mine are, and then I have other siblings that aren't, I don't think, and then my dad is not, because I know my dad well enough. I didn't even have to ask. I know that he wasn't gonna get vaccinated. I know, I grew up with him. Yep. I know his attitude about these things, and he's like, I don't need it. It's kind of an attitude. Yeah. So, but I saw him before I left, and I just had to tell him, like, Dad, I'm not gonna go to your party, and I don't think you should have it. I don't think that this is the right thing, especially with everything going on. And it's like, well, I'm gonna dance. I'm gonna do, and I'm like, okay, like I knew how that conversation was gonna go before I even had it. Yeah. But and so far I haven't heard anything bad happening, but yeah, I just saw some videos from it, and I'm like, yeah, there was none of the, they weren't paying attention to any of that,
Yeah, I felt like that was a thing too. Like every place I told you I went, nobody was paying attention to it. In fact, so much that's why I brought it up. Honest, you could probably, in the total conversation that I had in the 3 weeks I was gone, maybe 5 minutes total was about COVID. Yeah, and again, ran into very few places that were doing masks, and I didn't wear masks. If I went into a place and nobody was wearing it, I just didn't put it on. I was like, I'm vaccinated. I'm just gonna whatever. Yeah, I'm doing my thing. But if people are doing it and they're going for it, fine. I don't want to make people uncomfortable and stuff like that. And if it's a tight space or whatever. So I had it down. I walked into Walmart and I saw it. I'm like, okay, people are doing it. Cool. Yeah. But
that's exactly how I do.
I don't know, on some level, in my own head, I'm like, so now I'm just playing pretend on some level. I'm just going to do it when mm-hmm. And so I get it. It's exhausting after a while. People are tired of it. And I'm tired of conflicting, ideas and thoughts being thrown at me, and the goalposts are always moving, but it's a virus and it changes, and we still don't really know shit, because it's going to change again, and it's going to change again. And so I'm kind of trying to just accept that, we know some things, but on a lot of levels, we're still playing a lot of make believe here. But my line in the sand isn't masks. It certainly isn't vaccines. So if those are the things that are really triggering you, you're okay with, making abortion illegal in Texas, in controlling a woman's body. But the mask thing, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. And to be quite honest with you, the gentleman I work with at my job, not only, of course, are they anti-mask and think it's all plain, but indicative of their political beliefs and social beliefs, they also think that, oh man, why are they making such a big deal over the abortion thing? Why? So it's like a mentality that has to go along with not only the coronavirus and feeling towards that, but towards women and everything else. My problem with a lot of people that I've known over time is like, what's the old saying in the pottery store? Even though I know that it's a lie because Colin Powell said it, and they said pottery, no, it's not break it, you buy it, or anything like that. But the analogy I will use in this aspect when it comes to a lot of people, once you've turned your back on me, don't expect my solidarity to come when it does affect you. Because those same people that you agree with on that, especially with a lot of women, they're against you on the abortion thing. And if you're willing to trade that facade in as far as believing that this is a pandemic or whatever, and that this isn't real, and that people aren't, because what they're saying a lot right now is like, okay, well, if they die in the hospital, that somebody sabotaged them or gave them the wrong treatment or killed them or murdered them. They're going that route now that so many people are in the hospital. So they got to find some way to explain all this. But if you're willing to align yourself with that stupidity, that lunacy, when it comes, I still defend somebody getting an abortion, but them on an individual level, I wipe my hands with it now.
Well, that's it. I mean, you're okay with controlling women's bodies, but you're not. But you're not okay with you having a little bit of, I guess, responsibility put on you by wearing a mask or getting vaccinated. But you can control that. But when it comes to you, listen, I'm into freedom.
I'm into freedom, baby. I'm into freedom. I like
fucking freedom. People don't know what freedom. People think freedom's like, do I get a Big Mac or a quarter pounder with cheese?
Exactly. That's the shit that's most disgusting of all, because it's all based upon consumerism. Yeah. It's all about buying bullshit. You're right. That's what it's all about. It's about nothing else other than that. It's disgusting to me because they have just boiled it down to just that simple thing. The ability just to buy what it is I want and go to this watering hole, this, that, and the other, and get shit-faced or whatever.
That's I think what we're running up against, and that's why I see an acceleration of what's happening is instant gratification is now finally in this, this country, for people who have the means to it, is taking a bit of a hit, and I think it's just starting to snowball, and it's like, holy shit, I can't just get, any sort of salad dressing I want anytime I want. I can't get that blue fucking Camaro in 3 days. I can't do X, Y, Z. I can't go here. I can't go on vacation when I want. I got to wear something when I walk in. Like this, just walking through the universe blindly and throwing punches at everything is fucking starting, it's starting to hit back. And that's uncomfortable.
When the Rona first hit, I had written something on Facebook. Somebody asked me something. I said, well, I don't like kids being in the house myself. I don't find pleasure in kids not being able to go outside and play. But I said, hey, as a community, why don't we set it up where everybody who lives within a close proximity to a park can always take their kids out at a allotted time. I said, I know it takes a lot of structure, but we could do this, and then kids could go out for maybe 2 hours, and then we'll try and set it up as to where, even with a mask, I hate to do that because I don't like kids being masked. I'm not happy about that. But just in the immediate, we deal with this right now. And I know the person that's reading me like, that's too difficult. I don't want to deal with that shit. They're like a child. All I want to do is just take my kids to the park, do what the fuck it is I want to do.
They'd rather bitch than be creative.
My man.
I mean, holy Christ, that's the thing. This whole thing. This property I'm living on is people are just fucking creative. They figured out a way to live in a way where they don't have to pay a lot of bills, because they've been fucking creative about it and they've thought about it deeply. In their this is the whatever you want to call it, the manifestation of what that looks like. And so I think that's what we seem to lack with anything. Perfect. Like, what am I going to do with my kids? I don't know. Get fucking creative. Like, quit whining about the babysitter service that went away, public schools or whatever school you go to, and actually be creative with your children in your own life. But that takes thought, critical thought. That takes challenging, your belief systems, and that takes being uncomfortable.
I think people don't like their kids. I think people don't like their kids, to be quite honest with you. I think that's a big part of it. I don't like their fucking
kids either.
I think about it sometimes. Like, I had step kids, and the fact of the matter is that, like, You know, my ex-wife, she lived up there in the suburbs, and that's where they grew up in the whole nine. And now I as much as I liked those kids back then because they were just kids, I realize now that Houston suburb, knowing what it is, those kids are all of the pieces of shit that believe that the abortion thing is correct, that think that they're their parents now. And I have to realize sometimes, like, they aren't the kids that used to come over and just have fun. Now they're replicas of their parents. And you know it's not any good to
That's
themselves.
exactly it. I said that the other day. They're fucking replicas. That's the word. We are living in a society that we're a bunch of replicas. Like, you just become the extension of what was before you, and so on and so forth. And yet you believe everything they fucking told you. Why? Because that's, you know, you have some sort of trust thing with them because they birthed you or raised you or whatever they did.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. And so I feel like that's been society, civilization. It's just replicating and replicating. And, you know, when you get further and further away from the original, it starts to get shitty.
Yeah.
Hey Mike, were you a high school teacher? High school?
Yeah.
Did you see that a lot? Kids that were like replicating their shitty parents' beliefs or like the way that their parents acted. Do they just like replicate that a lot? Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw it in particular when we did, my colleagues and I, we would do something that would challenge the status quo. It's the standard story, so to speak. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I've mentioned this, but we did this every year. We did this fucking faculty folly show, and we would do this lip syncy thing with my buddies. And every year it became more and more sort of pushing the envelope of what we could get away with. And then we would have these kids, generally right-wing kids, just kind of sprinkled, kids that were like in ROTC, kids that just had, you know, conservative white parents. They started to push back as the years went on. And it was just basically, you know, we'd have these conversations and I'd be like, I don't know, like, why do you believe that? Like, where did that come from? And, you know, I get it. You're 16 years old, and I felt like I knew everything at 16, and I still don't know shit. And at this point, I was in my 30s or 40s. But the interesting part was that we did this show one year where it was about Afghanistan. We did this. We dressed up as toy soldiers, and we did this whole thing about how you get brainwashed by a particular narrative from a country, and then you want to fight and defend that particular belief. So you join the military and you go over there and you fight the war for those who have power, and then you die, and then you're celebrated as being a hero now that you have no power yourself because you don't exist. And so that was the faculty show we did, and we got a whole bunch of fucking whoa. And then the student talent show, these kids that were kind of the right-wing kids, the irony in all this is they did a mockery of us. They dressed up like we did. Really? And they did Pink Floyd's The Wall, We Don't Need No Education. And so it was like, you know what that song's about, right? Because it was like, teacher, leave those kids alone. And they're like, oh, that's a really cool line. You know, no dark sarcasm in the classroom. I'm like, okay, so you know that we're pointing out the obvious here. And I'd say, you know, at the beginning of I'll just send you guys the clip. We actually had a whole video playing behind us of the, you know, war scenes and all this. But we put like quotes up, and one of the quotes was by like Alec or James Baldwin, and it said, you know, don't believe everything, or don't believe anything, including this. And that was the beginning of the show. Like, this is just another point of view. What you're getting on a daily basis out of our history books, out of our English textbooks, out of the novels we assign from white old men that are no longer living, is the version that we're showing the other version too. And the students of color all got it. Like, they're like, fuck yeah, man, look at this. But those kids that were so used to walking again through the universe like this and swinging wherever they want and getting what they want, that's when, you know, you started to see, oh, like somehow this kid totally adopted their particular belief system from their parents. And I had to break free from that myself. And I didn't do it probably until my late 20s, really. So I give them slack for that, because like they're talking and thinking about issues that never would have entered my realm at 16 years old, you know, let alone 28 even at that point. So in that realm, you know, you cut them some slack, but it is interesting to see that when this replica point of view is just regurgitated back at you in real time, you're like, oh yeah, there it is.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I was just curious because you're on the ground level, seeing that. Like, how does that play out?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And it's nice to get out of that level because I can't imagine. There's no way. This isn't that long ago. It's 2000. We started doing these shows in 2003. We did them until 2007. And that was during all the Bush years, by the way. So this was all about imperialism and all that stuff. And there's no way we could do that now. I mean, the polarization that we have now, we talked about this. There's no way we could do that show. It's a miracle that somehow we got to do it then, because I was actually asked, I had to show them, because they didn't trust us after a while. I had to show them what we were going to do each year after a while. And so I showed them this video that I put together, and then I walked them through what we're going to do with these toy soldier things. And the principal who we had, she was a conservative. She's always the squeaky wheel. She's always worried what parents were going to say. And our athletic director, who was kind of like the guy she leaned on, he was in our camp, and he said to me, he threw it up, he tossed me a softball. He said, all you got to do, Mike, is tell me that this is not, and this is, if you think about this, that he actually had to say this, and that just tell me this isn't anti-war. And I said, it isn't, Mike.
Yeah.
Because anti-war, that's a bad thing.
Yeah,
is what I really want to say. Like, you're actually wanting me to be pro-war, then it's okay with you. So I'm just going to say it's not anti-war. So I fucking lied right to his face, but he knew it because he set me up.
Yeah.
He's like, this is what she wants to hear. She wants to hear this. Exactly. So I'm going to serve it up, fucking rip it over the fence. And I did, and we did. We did the show, and it was a full gamut of reactions. We had people crying, we had people storming out, we had people sending angry messages. It was insane for a little while. And
people are such little bitches. They're so triggered by dumb shit. It's so funny. I love it. I love doing. That's so great. I'm glad you did that. I'm really happy.
Well, I think that now is worse. As far as getting triggered, because once you start to realize that you are losing control, you're that much dangerous. And I'm not even lying to you, man. I'm not going to get all into it, but the fact of the matter is that, like, I can honestly see someone that's white coming into my job, and because of the coronavirus and everything else, to me, it's the coronavirus and the vaccine mandate that's pushing them over the brink.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so you had to deal with losing Trump. You had to deal with all this bullshit. And now you're trying to, and they feel like they're losing their, and this is a pervasive thought in white society, and white male society specifically, is like, I don't want to be a slave. I don't want to be a slave. I posted a video one time of this white guy, and one number of white folks that was in the store, and he couldn't get his stuff rung up at the cashier because he didn't have a mask on. Now, this is what I tell people all the time, and I've seen this in Houston, which is that the only people I've seen be able to do this is when we had a mask mandate, was white dudes and white women, but mostly white dudes, that could just walk through the store with no mask on and nobody call them out. Right. So what happened is that this dude walked all the way through the store, got all this shit. Nobody said anything to this cat or this, that, and the other. And then he got to the cashier, and finally somebody had enough heart to say, yo, man, you need to put a mask on. Not like even at the end part, somebody like, no, you know what? You're not going to come in here and skirt the rules. And I see all these other people with masks on. So then he gets pissed off, and then he says something as he's going out. And then he turns around. All these white folks, he says, you're a slave. You're a slave. And he used that word specifically. And that's what I pinpoint. Because and I'm going to use the word straight the hell up. It is the niggerization. That is the fear of white men here in America, to be niggerized, to not have any control. If you ever listen to 12 Years a Slave, the audiobook, you can listen to it on YouTube. I haven't seen the movie. I listened to the audiobook. And one of the things that I remember distinctly was that Solomon Northrop said when he used to walk from one plantation to another, a rich white man wouldn't ask him for nothing, no papers or nothing, because he didn't see him as a threat. He really didn't care
Right.
about it, right? He like,
Right.
even on my property, so what the hell? He probably somebody else's. I don't care. But he said the only ones that would ever stop him and ask him for his papers as to where he's going from one plantation to another was poor white men.
Yeah.
Because that's
Yeah.
all they had to hang on to feebly was their white supremacy. Which,
Right.
if you think about it, plays into the Civil War thing. Because why would you get all these poor white people to go out quicker than the northern white man would be when it came to fighting to keep the Union? But you had poor white people who had no slaves, that would actually go out there with no forcing them to do it whatsoever, and go out and keep. And I'll tell you something. If you look at the Civil War, I'll tell anybody, the reason that it lasted as long as it did is because the clinging onto white supremacy so feebly by that poor white Southerner was miles above that northern soldier that felt like, this ain't my fight, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing here, and the whole nine. So that's why they got extended out so far over 5 years. Because if you look at the resources, if you look at the money, you look at the weaponry of the North, they should have just smashed the South. But when they believed so much in what they were doing, more than the person that they were fighting against, it made them a formidable opponent. You know?
So I mean, it's at some levels, it's shocking that the North actually won with an attitude like that. It's like, it's like the revolution.
Exactly.
When you have the Patriots going against.
No, what you're saying is a great point. Go ahead.
Going against the empire that was, the sun never sets in the British Empire. And one side was up for the fight, and the other side was going through the motions. And I'm not saying like the North was totally going through the motions, but the level of I think urgency was clearly different.
Well, I think that eventually what happened with the North is like they finally had some not ethnic pride, but regional pride.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like it was like, you know what? They think that they can smash us. You know what? Let's go fuck them up and prove. And prove. So I think it was that regional pride, right? And you even see it that's carried over before, where you want to. I mean, a lot of it that's driving. And I'll tell anybody this. A lot of it that's driving the whole like, oh well, the Rona isn't real, and I'm not going to get vaccinated here, is because the Southern white man had carried a chip on his shoulder. I'll tell you, I lived in the South, I've lived in Los Angeles, and I know for a fact the Southern white man carries a chip on his shoulder that does extend back all the way to the Civil War. Yeah, and when you see I'll show you guys the T-shirt you catch. When they had that black flag on there, that is from the Civil War period. It's just one step below the Confederate flag. And that's why they have embraced it as to the degree that. So they're never going to pay. It had nothing to do with science. You could break it down to them and show them exactly why climate change is real. All this shit. It's like, no, I'm not going to listen to you because you're my fucking enemy. Right? That's it. Yeah. And there's no way you're going to get this contingent of people to ever accept that. It doesn't matter. I'm already I'm going to tell you something, Mike. When you interviewed me, I think it was the first time on Nature Bats Lab. I never forget you said, and it's something that nobody had really noticed, like a lot of people that talk, they're like, man, you talk about the emotional upheaval that you were saying in my writing, where you could see that I've gone through. Now, I know a lot of the reason that you understand it because you've been through it also. So I was like, God damn, it's like searing my soul. When you told me that the first time, like somebody was like, oh shit, damn. He sees like the whole avenue of everything it is that I'm talking about. And when somebody's able to bare your soul like that, it's very like, it's either going to make you mad or it's going to make you feel like, you know what? I'm glad that somebody understands what it is I'm saying. And with the Southern white man, even if I was to say it in a solidarity and understand what he's going through, he's still going to look at me as like, nigga, why in the hell it is? You don't know nothing about me, right? It's just going to be a trigger, you know? And I hate that because I wish people just come to understand exactly why it is that they are who they are. Now, I went to the future and I saw all this shit, and you come back same as you have, and you're like, oh man, you know what? You want to try and change something. Then you realize that it's a futile thing. So for me, I've kind of like just closed it down. Like if you call me up or Patrick or anybody it is that I know who they're about and ask me for anything. If you got broke down in Iowa, I'm leaving. I'm not going to work tomorrow. I might leave them a note, and I'm gonna go pick you up and get you for forever. Like, I mean, because that's how I roll. Now, I understand I can't solve the world's problems, but all I can do is just try to be there to the best of my ability to the people it is that I love, which you guys are a part of that. You can't have kindred spirits like you guys and not love them and not be lip service, right?
Right. I think that's the biggest thing. That's why is you don't. That's why I was attracted to what you wrote and wanted to have you on the show and wanted to ultimately have you on this show is because there is no code, and that's so rare, even for people who are what I would call highly involved in social issues and talk about and write about those things and do those. But there's always sort of this like, I don't know, like I can't put this on a particular person's wall and things like that. I know that I think deep down, even if I didn't know it on a conscious level, I knew that if I said something or did something that was bullshit, you would call me on it. And not necessarily, beat me down on it, which would be fine too, because it depends on what I'm saying. But I felt like there's an honesty here, even if it's online, that I rarely see. And so it just stood out immensely. And I was like, holy shit. We need to have people like this talking on our little podcast because it gives some sort of validity to something beyond, because guy was a college professor, and he the ivory tower, and I was I had a very similar background to his, except I just didn't teach at a university level, and it was a lot of ideas and thoughts and concerns, but I felt like you brought it and cut through the stuff to like what it really was, the bare bones, and we got to the point, and it was depth of an understanding that I didn't even think was possible to learn from somebody online. And I was like, this is a really cool person. I don't know if I'll ever get to meet this person, but what I can do is try and share their voice. And I mean, thank God you did it, because that show in the beginning was pretty bad. I mean, we had technical difficulties. We give you a couple days. Here's your topic, or give us a topic. And by the way, we're live. Go. After a while, we gave you time. We could get you to record it and stuff like that. But man, I mean, it wasn't necessarily a convenient thing. So, thank you.
Oh no, I thank you guys. I mean, it's never too small, and I truly believe that for me to ever talk. I'm not this is all I say. Even though I told you guys about the guys in my job and the stuff it is that they're wearing as far as the t-shirts or whatever, and I'll tell anybody this, and I look in my technical lead's eyes when I told him, I said, look, I don't treat these cats out here any different than I do if some fucking bigwig walk through the door.
Right.
If nothing else, we ain't gonna agree to this, that, and other, but I'm not gonna go treat y'all like shit, even though you don't like. But I'm not going to do that and look myself in the mirror. I treat everybody the goddamn same. Mm-hmm. And if it's on you on the other side, if you actually do something from me, I don't give a damn if you are that high up or that low. I'll tell you the same thing. I'll tell anybody this. And to be quite honest with you, and you've talked to me about why is it work? And I put this out there. My aunt just got her leg cut off to diabetes, same as my mom. Mm-hmm. She's the same age my mom. Died when she's 68.
Okay. And
she needs my financial help.
Right.
And I go into that drudgery each and every day. Not drudgery, I don't, because they leave me alone now. That's one thing I've learned. It's like, I'm cool. Just let me do my work, and then I got to interact with you every now and again. Let me put my headphones on. Let me read, listen to this, see what's going on, blah, 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 blah. And then just leave me alone. Then I have to deal with you every now and again. Okay, I ain't got no problem. I can do that.
Right.
But I would hate myself if I wasn't able to help her, considering the fact of everything it is she did for me as a child, where she helped me out so much financially, me and my mom, and my father in and out, and then him finally even falling on a really hard time where he wasn't able to help us, help me, and he even gave money to I have an older half brother. He even gave money for him until he just couldn't anymore. So, but that would kill me inside. If it was just about me, man, I'd give him the fucking, I'd hand my shit in tomorrow. But then even my uncle, I was the only one that helped him out with taking care of my grandmother's house in Mississippi. All my first cousins, I was the only one. I had an uncle that had MS. I had to send him $500 a month. Like, this was a while ago, but for like 6 years until he finally just passed away. You know, I had to do that. So it's like, I've always had to put other things above even myself because I couldn't live with myself if I didn't do that.
Yeah. You have a foundation that I think that's ultimately what's missing, in large chunks in our society is the foundational level from which people come from is so flawed and so cracked. And, I think about this all the time. Like, I don't know how people recover from some of the childhoods that they endured, because that first 5-6 years, my God, I mean, if you get fucked up in that time period, chances of you recovering are next to zero. Mm-hmm. People do, and you hear about a few of them, and they do amazing things, and they become great, incredible people. But it just seems like that tailspin right out of the gate.
That's not the norm. Yeah.
It's almost you can't recover from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's just the facts of the matter. Yeah, in fact, I mean, I haven't talked about it too much, but when I got the letter in my mail, my father had been alive for over 20 years, and I didn't know anything about it. I did know about his childhood growing up, and it was I don't even know what all happened to him. To be quite honest with you. And he never talked about it. He would talk to me about politics. He would talk to me about social issues. But even my own mother didn't know anything about my father. What she knew came from his sisters. And what I know for how he grew up is because of talking with them after he had left, right? Because I wasn't really close to my father's side until like a few years ago. But my point being is that, like, you're right. I always say this, like, he got much farther than most people would have that had gone through the shit that he did. Yeah. Being black, growing up in 1940s, 50s, South Carolina, Georgetown, which is a podunk town. He got much farther than most cats that would not say he was perfect, but he got much farther. So to give credence what you're saying is right. Like that, those early years are very formative as to who you are as a person, no doubt.
Yeah, it's like I have people that I live with and live around, and I'm like, and people deal with trauma, and I'm like, man, I feel so absurdly lucky. It was a fucking chance. I grew up in a household where people weren't, they were nice, they weren't abusive, they weren't taking advantage of you, and I'm like, God, if I was just pushed, a couple households of the next door down, like, what would my life have been, and could I have recovered from that early tailspin? And I'm like, I don't think so. I mean, I'd like to think I could, everybody's like, oh, I could have fucking, I don't know, man. I don't think so, because
that's it.
No.
Yeah.
I'm just glad things went how they went. You're 100% correct. Yeah. I think I might, but you know what? I just leave it open-ended. I'll never know. And I'm just glad that I won't ever know.
No, and that's the thing. Like, I'm sure I have these conversations all the time with people and students in the past, and it's like I have to remind myself, like, what tailspin is this person trying to get out of? Like, trying to just control this vehicle that they just were shoved into, and like, and now they're in their 30s figuring shit out or not figuring shit out, and the ebb and flow of this, and it's like, and then I react to it, and it's like, God, I don't know, man. I feel like we're in a penal colony, this planet, in this existence, and it's like, it's a fucking it's a madhouse.
Yeah, it really is. The thing I will say this though, and I'll tell anybody this, is this: everything it is that I care about really does, same as you, it doesn't affect me. What I mean by that is I'm 48 years old. When the shit really hits the fan, I probably will be so fucking old or dead that it won't matter. I mean, I've never been to prison. Right. Yeah. Like, and I don't even know anybody that's really done like hard time, which is strange growing up in South Central Los Angeles like I did during 1980. But none of my cousins are in the joint. None of my uncles.
Yeah.
They were all like professionals, and yeah, even my dad, even though he fell on a hard time, he was an electrical engineer. Was the only reason that I'm one is because of him, which I don't mind. You know, I revered him. But my point being is that like I worry about these things, which I probably will never have to deal with one day in my. You also
Yeah.
you probably
yeah.
will not have to deal with it one day in your life, but yet and still, and I think that's the one thing that is indicative of the American psyche, if nothing else. There is not any iota of altruism. That we have no idea what altruism is. And it's concerning yourself about things that it's not on my plate. I'm an electrical engineer, right? You know what I mean? I make okay money or whatever. I'm not rich by any stretch of the imagination. But that being said, even if I didn't even send my aunt money, I could just use that, you know, like $300, $400, or $500, whatever I send her, to go out at a club, right? Or just do whatever. Like, oh man, why the fuck do I care? I ain't have to deal with that shit, you know. But the only thing that dialed me back, man, because you know me for a long time. The thing that dialed me back is one thing I refuse to do any longer. I told myself, and this has to go with my ex-wife, and it has to do with even my best friend on this earth, which I'm not cool anymore. I said, I can't concern myself about this earth more than people who have kids and are leaving them this fucking disgusting place it is that we have right now. I can't do it. Like my existence on this earth, even if I don't know what happens when we leave this earth. I don't know, we go heaven, hell, whatever. But as long as I'm on this planet, I've been through enough and I've done enough where I should at least enjoy my existence up to this point. Now it's time for those people who have kids going to leave this earth where you don't have to worry about it and I don't have to worry about it. You've done enough. I know I've done enough. And the people that want to bring another life form or have another life form on this earth need to step up their fucking game. All right? Because I don't know, to be quite honest with you, I know plenty of people with kids. And I've known you for a while. I don't know anybody, my friends, my family, I don't know anybody that cares about this earth more than you do. Who's stayed up at night, who's been traumatized by it, who's thought about what it is that you need to do to make it a better world for these kids. I don't know anybody. These are my friends and my family. I don't know one, right? So, and I've seen you dial it back a little bit, and I like to see that because you deserve that time for you and Karen to enjoy whatever time it is that any of us have left on this earth because you sacrificed enough. Right?
Yeah. So I mean, I tell you, I have a whole, there's kind of a little shift here, but I have a whole new, and I want to get Patrick involved because he's just listening intently.
No shit. I'm sorry, brother.
I'm sorry. I'm tired. I'm sorry. Okay. I've been quiet.
Another 6 hours, we're out of here. I have a whole new attitude. I actually, on some levels, I understand more than I think I used to. And accept much more than I used to, the idea of suicide. I get the idea of people being so spun in a situation that they can't seem to get out of, and a world that is quickly deteriorating, that like, fuck this dimensional space. I mean, I'm going to roll the dice and whatever. If I don't get anywhere else, I don't know any better anyways. But if I'll take my chances somewhere else. And because I get that now. I have a different attitude. I used to get really angry when I heard about suicide. And I don't want to say like I get it, because I'm not in a space, where I'm thinking about that. But I understand on some level much more than I used to. And I think living out here and seeing people how they just look at death in general, that's kind of that's changed it for me, at least. So, and Patrick?
Yeah, Patrick, chime in.
About suicide? About
suicide?
You
can about whatever you want. I mean, we can wrap this up too. We've been going a
few hours. Yeah.
Oh shit. Man, I didn't even look. Yes.
So, I mean, you got.
Okay, well,
I exhausted, dude.
I went on a hike this afternoon with my partner. She's like, yeah, we need to, let's go on it's just a few hours that we'll spend. And so it was an exhausting, like, I'm out of shape a little bit. So like we went on this hike, we went up this, like, not on a mountain, but it's like switchback, you're back and forth. It took a few hours to get up there. and you just beautiful lake, and you look out over the lake. It was incredibly beautiful, right? And like on the way back down, and I just had this thought, and this is where my mind goes because it was beautiful and I was present, for the most part.
Mhm.
But I was like, yeah, what is this gonna look like in 10 years?
Mhm.
What
Oh
is this gonna
yeah.
look like in 20 years?
Yeah.
And I shared that thought with her,
Done
and
that.
she's like, that's so sad. I'm like, yeah, it is. And so I don't know. And Mike, you talk about suicide. Yeah, I've known people like you in that space of being angered by people that commit suicide. I've never
Mhm.
been that way because I've talked about this before publicly, but like I've been suicide. I've never attempted anything, but I've had
Right.
suicidal ideation for a long time. I had a really close friend when I was 18, he was 19, he committed suicide,
Mhm.
you know. I still think about that a lot. Um I recently filled out this cuz my partner's she was in Canada, but she moved back, but she's a dual citizen, so I wanted to be able to get considered quote rehabilitated by Canadian. The Canadian government is really strict about DUIs. So about 9.5 years ago, I got a DUI, and
Mhm.
I was like really depressed at that time. I was drinking a lot, and then I was driving one time and got pulled over, and I was thrown in a holding cell, and I had to go through the whole like process of
Right.
being on probation, the whole thing, right? So this was almost 10 years ago, and in Canada, they're really, really strict about this shit. So if you have a DUI in your record, they won't like let you in the country until maybe 10 years after if they find that you're considered rehabilitated. So for me to enter the country,
Can I ask you
yeah,
one question?
yeah,
Are you talking about just like to visit or like to move?
just to visit, just to even
Wow.
enter the country at all as a visitor,
Wow.
as a tourist or whatever. So anyway, long story short is I've been doing this rehabilitation process. I say process. It's just a bunch of forms you fill out. I had to send in my fingerprints to the FBI to get a background check. I had to get that. I had the state police. I've had to go through all my court records. I found all my shit from like 9 years ago. Just basically in write like explaining what happened and why I consider myself rehabilitated. I got like letters of recommendation or character letters or
Wow.
whatever, like just everything I could
Yeah,
possibly
that's
do.
crazy.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Canada's terrible. They're terrible about this sort of thing. Because I've been to other fucking countries. They've never brought it up. They don't pull up your
Right.
record, but Canada does. So anyway, in the letter, and what it did is it's like I've been doing this thing recently. I did this with the podcast, and I've been doing this with this rehabilitation letter. Is I've been reflecting on what I've been doing over the past however many years, and so when I looked at I pulled up all these old records I had from that time, like all my I don't know, not receipts, but like copies of my probation officer's notes, all the things I had to do. And I was just reflecting on that time I was in, like how I felt at that time and dredging all those feelings up and like where I was at the age of 22, 23. And like, as I was writing the letter to like say like, this is why I did what I did. I mean, I had to reflect on my friend who committed suicide a little
Mhm.
bit, like that experience. And that was a really like rocky period in my like early 20s. And a lot of it stems from like that friend that died.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I don't know. My point is, I guess just thinking about what you said about suicide is like, I remember when he committed suicide, a lot of people didn't know how to take it. They didn't understand. They'd refuse to understand. And that would make me angry because I'm like, that's not, I don't know. I guess I've always been able to relate with the suicidal
Yeah. Yeah.
ideation, the feeling of like, why am I here? Anyway, so I'm still here, and I think you kind of have to. I think especially people that I get calls like I have this drop me a line. I call it drop me a line feature for the other podcast I do. People can leave a message, and it's like, how they feel about whatever.
Yeah.
They can ask me a question or whatever. People will say like, I found your podcast because I saw something and I started learning about climate change, and then it like one thing led to the other, and I find your podcast, kind of a thing, And they
Right.
always thank me for it, because there's this place that people get to when they learn all this shit, and they don't know what to do with it. I'm not saying I have answers or anything, but just like being able to have our podcast, like all three of us, the other work I do, all the other people that we know that are in this space, like the fact that we exist, it does help. Like it allows, because when I was going through my shit at that age, like I didn't feel like I had anybody that could like relate with me on that level, because I wasn't just thinking about my personal shit. It was like I was reflecting on climate change. Like I was starting to integrate that information and I wasn't doing well at it.
Yeah.
Wasn't working, like, because it was like, I have to go to work at a job. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I had all these other shit that people go through at that age. And then on top of that, like, this is all very temporary because of all these things. Right. And so, I don't know. I think, I don't know. I just wanted to express, I think having all of us get together and do these conversations and the reflections I get from others that people talk about my other podcast and this podcast is people like, Forrest, there was something I said last time. Actually, I wanted to say, I don't know if I said this in our chat, our group chat, but you were talking about the greatest gift that you wanted to give your child, which you chose to never have, was not having a child. Yeah. Like the biggest gift. And like that really, like someone was like, that really hit them hard. Like they almost started crying because they have that exact same experience personally, like of having having the impulse to have a family, but like choosing not to because of what that life would be like for them. Anyway, I just want to just say that I think that there's a value in having these conversations and doing this.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt.
That's all.
But I think it's about being honest. I mean, I'm like next time when we in a very like introspective mood, I mean, I didn't even tell you everything that happened with my father. That's a whole other story. It's a nice little understanding of how shit can get sideways with it quick, and you got to work your way through that. I had to work my way through that and the whole nine. And I think I'm pretty much cool with that, But it went. If someone would have told me, I'll tell you this. I told a couple of people this. I said, man, if you would have told me when I was like 15 years old, like you're not gonna see your father from 19 until 40, from 48, 45, I think that happened. And you're going to get a letter in the mail, and it's going to say that he died and he was stroked out and he was in a convalescence home and this, that, and the other. And I'd have been like, no, there's no way. Because he's still an integral part of my life at that age. Right? I mean, there's no way. Then after I've gone through so many peaks and valleys in my life, even losing my mom, the way that happened, the whole nine. If someone told at 45 and then somebody say like, you just all this happened, I'm like, yeah, that pretty much is indicative of my life.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? I'd have been like, no, that's pretty much how that's the only way it could go down. But you get up and you keep fighting in the whole nine. So what I'm saying is that like, I'm not gonna kill myself because this is one thing I am happy about. If nothing else, I know that there are people who would be upset about me leaving this earth. If I left this earth tomorrow and I knew like nobody would be like missing me or anything like that, I could see myself killing myself. I've had no suicidal ideations, but I'm saying like something that could happen or transpire. I'm like, you know what? It's all good. I'm ready to go. But this, that, and other. But I know like there are enough people who like if you guys did something to yourselves, and I know you won't. But if you guys did something to yourselves tonight, I'd be inconsolable. There's things that each one of you have written, said, and done, and posted. Like I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna front. When I saw you in front of your house with your family, Mike, I cried over that. That's one of the most beautiful things it is that I've seen. I had no issue. I'm not a pussy or anything like that. They like to call cats like me about something like that. That's how much I know you look so happy and peaceful being there. So you want to capture those moments in times as best as you can. So I know that there are people also who love me like that, where I would never do something to myself unless I had to. Kind of like I don't know if Patrick has seen this, like a Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid when Robert Redford and Paul Newman come out there shooting. That's it. Yeah, that's still bullshit, right? So what I'm saying, like when it's like, so when you at that like point of no return, you gotta do what you gotta do. But
I'm
that
just
being
saying. I
said,
think.
man,
I
mean-
think ultimately, like if something, like I woke up the next day and one of you had done something, I would be incredibly saddened. But I would also be. I have a whole new respect for that choice than I did.
Yeah.
And I don't, because I can't put myself in that I can't put myself in your shoes on some level, because I do not have that insight of what it is to wake up every day as Forrest or every day as Patrick. And so I have to trust the fact that you know what the fuck you're doing on some levels. And in my idea of what I think you should do doesn't really fucking matter.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, you're 100% correct. You're 100% correct. Most people wouldn't deal with it from an existential aspect as you do, though. Right?
Yeah, I
Most
smoke
people
a
deal
lot of
from
dope.
Dude.
That's a good thing. That's
Speaking
a
of
good
which,
thing.
just get high over here.
You know, I will say I haven't smoked in months, and then now that I live here, there's a fucking weed shop down the street. Like I could walk like 2 minutes to it, and so we went and got some edibles the other night, and like watched a movie and passed the fuck out. It was very nice.
Yeah, man.
It was
Hold
nice.
up, man. Hold up. I'm gonna tell you this right now. You got to make your decision, young blood. Because once you do get that call back after you said all that bullshit that you have said in that interview to get whatever job it is you get in the short term, they're gonna hand you a cup. And they're gonna be like,
yeah, I
just
better
sell
that
books, huh?
motherfucker right there.
I'm just gonna stop now. I'm gonna just no more.
No,
more.
dude, don't stop, because then you don't have to fucking get a job.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I need one, or I need something. I'm getting all these little like signals from people that there's this thing or that thing. Like I have a friend that's like, hey, I want to start a podcast and we could pay you to do it. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. I don't know. Nothing is secure right now. It's just like kind of. And I've received
this is the only thing I'll say, and we've had this conversation in our text messages. I'm like, I can go in every day because, and be quite honest with you, I'll be totally forthcoming. Part of it is the fact, like, coming from my lineage, you always had to go in and do what it is that you had to do.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I have a slave mentality, but you've always, even my mother, she was a press operator, have to go in. So that's what I've been instilled in each and every day. Because even though I hate capitalism to an extent, only you guys will understand it. But the fact of the matter is that, like, if someone calls me up and my cousin needs $200 to pay his electric bill, which has happened, then I give him, okay, man, here you go. Hey, there you go. Or if he has to go see his mother because something transpired, I'm like, okay, well, I can float you the money for the ticket. Never get it back, but I don't ask for it back. I always say I don't loan people money. I give it. If I get it back, fine. If not, I really don't give a shit. Right? It's not the end of the world. But you're somebody who just needs to like podcast, right? Because you're so good at what it is that you do, man. And you got even anything that you get in the interim until you get that bread enough to. Now you never blow up like Joe Rogan because you're too real.
No, yeah.
Right?
No, I'm not gonna be the most listened to man in a English speaking world. Probably not, but oh well, that's fine.
No, and that's the choice you make. You're
okay
it's
with
one
that.
of those things. You can either speak what it is, or you can just try and get hits.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm doing okay. It's just not enough, but it's fine. I'm not trying to complain. It's just the way it is. But I'll.
No, there's nothing wrong with complaining every now and again, as long as there's some validity to it.
You figured it out this far, so I
know.
You'll figure it out.
Figure it out. Yeah. Well, I don't know, guys. We've been talking for a while.
That's enough for me. I gotta pee and shit.
Yeah, pee and
yeah,
shit.
I gotta pee and shit. Yes, that's I do also.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, yeah. Well, thank you, guys.
Reports that say that something hasn't happened are always interesting to me, because as we know, there are known knowns. There are things we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know.